Casey was always the kind of guy who did everything right. He worked as a bartender at one of the clubs in the city center, and while the job wasn't ideal, it allowed him to live without serious problems. He was a good guy, someone who valued family and loyalty, but everything changed when he started noticing strange changes in his girlfriend Olivia's behavior. At first, it was little things. She started coming home later. Her phone was always on silent, and she frequently went out for work meetings that she wouldn't talk about. Casey began to worry, but his feeling for her kept him from acting. Olivia was not only beautiful but magnetic. When she laughed, the room noticed. When she cried, it froze. But one evening, as he sat at home scrolling through messages, Casey stumbled upon something that made his heart skip a beat. On his phone screen was a chat between her and her boss, James, where they were discussing their personal meetings. Casey felt a sharp crack in his heart, but he couldn't bring himself to go through the messages again. He knew it. This was more than just friendship. As soon as Casey realized that Olivia was cheating on him, he decided to find a way out of the situation. He didn't want to be the guy who just sat back and let everything fall apart. Instead, he resolved to change his life, become a better version of himself, earn more money, and show Olivia that he could do more. His friend Ben worked in finance and always talked about opportunities to make big money. He became Casey's support, teaching him the basics of investing. Ben stood by him when everyone around him mocked his aspirations. Meanwhile, Olivia continued her affair, and it seemed she didn't even try to hide it. She posted more and more pictures with her lover on social media, and Casey saw it all. But the more he worked and earned, the more his hatred for her and desire for revenge grew. Casey became more and more successful, and now he had the means to become the man he had always dreamed of, financially independent. When he returned to the club where they first met and saw Olivia with her new lover, it was the last straw. His heart wasn't filled with just pain, but also a sense of triumph. He knew he could do anything now. Instead of leaving the club and walking away from her, he decided to use the situation. He played a big game. He pulled her back into his life, like a dog on a leash. She couldn't resist. Casey showed her that he was no longer the same guy she had once cheated on. He was strong, confident, and rich. And now, when she was back in his bed, he realized that her heart no longer mattered to him. Casey had always dreamed of being with Olivia, but now that he had everything he wanted, he began to realize just how empty that goal was. He had been so devoted to her, but now every moment with her felt empty, even when she was physically there. They met again after he had shocked her with his transformation. Olivia was astonished by his new persona. A man she left behind had now become successful, charismatic, and confident. She couldn't believe how much he had changed, but still, her heart longed for what they once had. But Casey no longer felt the same way. He didn't want to rekindle what they once had. He was ready to take advantage of the situation to get what had been taken from him, and he started to do just that. His plan was simple: get what was his, but without emotions. He had to exact his revenge. Casey invited her over once more. Olivia was drunk on the thought of winning him back, convincing herself that maybe this chance for a new beginning was worth it. They spent the night together, but for Casey, it was more than just returning to physical closeness. It was an act of closing an old chapter and revenge for all the years he had given to her, years she never appreciated. The next morning, after a night spent together, Casey woke up early, before Olivia had opened her eyes. His heart didn't feel joy or disappointment. It was neutral, cold, and he finally understood that everything he had been through no longer mattered. Olivia woke up later, thinking about what had happened between them. She couldn't understand why he had changed, why he wasn't the same romantic guy he once was. She tried to win him back, but Casey was stubborn. "You'll never understand what I feel, Olivia," he said as she tried to justify her actions. "You'll never understand why I changed." He was ready to move on, but before he left her with one last message. "You no longer have control over my life. You'll never change me again." With those words, he walked away, leaving her behind in her thoughts. Casey no longer needed her love. Now, he was ready to move on with his life. His heart was free. Casey started a new life. He felt independent, and while there were some tough moments, He no longer searched for excuses in his past. He had gained new success in business, became a leader in his field, and felt more alive than he ever had before. Olivia tried to get him back, but it was too late. Casey had gotten what he wanted: revenge, confidence in himself, and a new perspective on life. He realized one important thing. Greater revenge wasn't about getting back at someone with harmful actions. It was about being successful, happy, and living your life without any burdens. A few months later, when everything was behind him, Casey realized that inner peace was more important than revenge. His path to success wasn't just external, but internal as well. He understood that he no longer wanted to be part of the story with Olivia, even though she kept trying to reach out to him. In the end, Casey moved far away from the places that reminded him of the past and started over, reclaiming his inner freedom and building new relationships with himself. He became the person he had always wanted to be, and his heart was finally free.